going on, family? What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Welcome to another episode of Friday Night Live with me, Pastor Frank. I know you could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with me, and I'm so grateful. And as always, is anybody else glad that we made it through yet another week? God saw us through to the end of yet another week, and I'm always grateful, y'all. And do me a favor, as y'all logging on, go ahead and drop me a line in the chat. Let me know y'all watching. Let me know who chatting with me on the night. And as always, don't forget to, if you haven't already, subscribe to Frank Maurice Unfiltered on YouTube. Do me a favor, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now. Make sure that you can get those notifications right now. And as always, what's going on, Nidra? As always, don't forget to like and don't forget to share the video with somebody else. Because shame on you if you know we got a good thing going on here, but you ain't gonna share it with nobody else, right? If you've been blessed by the conversations we've been having, by the journey that we're on, the least you can do is share this video, text it, email it, however you need to send it to somebody else. Send it to somebody else, share it with somebody else. Somebody else needs to hear some of these nuggets that we be dropping and some of the things that we be talking about. And but yeah, man, I hope and I pray, is my hope and my prayer, you all, that you all have been blessed by the episodes so far. As again, I told you all, we have been intentional about the conversation and the topics that we're talking about, because at the end of the day, the goal is for all of us to live out our best lives, right? And one of the best ways to do that is to get back to having better days and getting to the place where we can dream unfiltered, right? Get back to those dreams, that that dream that God gave you. Yeah, it's time to pick that thing back up. It's time to dust it off and start making plans in preparation. But we just got to do a little work first, right? And so that's what that's all about. And so, as promised, as planned, y'all heard the preview last week. Y'all saw the topic at the bottom of how you watching it. Tonight's episode, you all, I mean, we still doing some digging, right? We still doing the work as we're on this journey to better days. Tonight we're gonna be talking about the problem. And I promise y'all, I mean, I can't I wrestled with this thing because it was a couple of different ways that I thought about approaching it. And so the way that I ended up going with the way that God showed me that was best, or that might fit or suit best for most of us, right? A situation, coming from the angle or perspective that most of us could relate to. So, y'all ready? Well, let's go. So here's the thing. A few weeks ago, I introduced a quote to us that says, "Our lives are not determined by what happens to us, but by how we respond to what happens to us," right? But then as we started digging a little bit deeper into what that quote was really saying, trying to break it down, we learned that, watch this, that the way that we responded, or how we responded to whatever may have happened to us, was a direct result of what we thought about what happened to us, right? Meaning whatever transpired in our lives, right? Whether good, bad, indifferent, whatever it is, whatever we experienced in life, right? It made us feel a certain kind of way. And based on how we felt, it made us think something. Either we thought, oh my God, I don't want to ever experience this again. Either we thought this was the greatest thing on earth, or whatever the case may be. But here's the thing, and which is I want to start this week off with, which based on the fact of knowing that what we thought is what contributed to, watch this, and shape how we handled everything else moving forward. The question that I want to start out asking tonight, the first question rather, is, what were we thinking? What were you thinking when whatever you experienced? What were you thinking? Now that's not for you to don't type it on the screen. That's for you to just think about that for a minute. What were you thinking? Because remember, whatever we thought about the things that happened to us, that set the tone or set the standard for how we would end up responding to pretty much everything else in our lives moving forward. So again, I want us to think real quick. What was I thinking? The reason I start off with this question, you all, because I mentioned it last week. For those who missed last week, if you didn't, you need to go back and watch it, but I'm going to catch you up. In case you didn't know, or in case you forgot that we talked about it, regardless of what happened to us in our life, I need y'all to hear me. You and me, we are 100% responsible for where we are in our lives at this very moment. The moment you're hearing my voice right now, it don't matter who did what to you. It don't matter how they raised you. You are 100% responsible for where you are in life. Feel like I need to let that marinate a little bit. Because sometimes we like to dance around some of those tough conversations. Got me thinking about how I go. Thank God for granting me this moment of clarity, this moment of honesty. The word will feel my truth. Through my hard knock lifetime, the gift and the curse, I gave you volume at the volume of my work so you could feel my truth. For those that don't know, that's the chorus to Jay-Z's song, Moment of Clarity. That's what this is for us, a moment of clarity. Listen, regardless of who did us wrong, regardless of who broke our heart, regardless of what someone may have done to us, whether it was physical or mental, it don't change the fact that we are 100% responsible for where we are in life at this very moment. Now, let me just kind of throw this out there because somebody might be like, you don't know what they did to me and all that other kind of stuff. Listen, in no way am I justifying or excusing of what someone may have done to you, right? Whatever they may have done to you or me, in no way am I excusing of their actions, right? Because their actions were pure evil, flat out evil. And so here again, I'm acknowledging wrong is wrong, period, point blank. However, you all, what I am saying is that what happened, happened. And we can't change the past. But what we can do is we can begin healing from our wounds and then begin preparing for our future. Let me say that again. What we can do is heal from our wounds and begin to prepare for the future that God has in store for us. I can't stress enough, you all. I can't emphasize enough the importance of us taking accountability for wherever we are in life, regardless of what happened to us, regardless of how we were raised. And the reason, I didn't know it at the time, I'm being honest. At the time that God gave me the idea for, or the concept for tonight, I didn't really know where he was going with it until I was praying. And I told you I could have went a couple of different ways with it. But there's a scripture that kept ringing in my ear. There's a scripture in the Bible, Romans 14 and 12. And Romans 14 and 12 reminds us that each one of us will give an account of ourselves to God. What does that mean? That means God is going to hold each and every one of us accountable for what we did with the life he gave us. He's going to hold us accountable for what we didn't do with the life he gave us. Which leads me to give you something else to think about. What are you doing with your life right now? Because at the end of the day, you all, regardless of what we experience throughout our lifetime, we're still expected to fulfill our God-given purpose while we're here on earth. So knowing that God is going to hold each one of us accountable, I think it only makes sense that we learn how to start taking, watch this, full responsibility for the life he gave us. Don't you agree? Not to mention, you all, when we begin to take responsibility for our lives, we're no longer being held hostage by the actions or attitudes or opinions of, watch this, of the people that hurt us, which in turn begins to remove some of those toxins, some of the baggage, some of the excess waste that a lot of us carry, that a lot of us try to bury. Let me try and break this down a little bit. You see, here's the thing. When you and me are not intentional about taking responsibility, and I got to be clear about when we're not intentional about taking full responsibility for our lives, what we're doing is we continue to choose to live in what I would call the shadows of whatever experience that person gave us. Or we choose to live in the shadows of whatever unhealthy habits that someone taught us. And here's where the problem with that comes in. Because over time, those unhealthy ways that we end up picking up, it eventually alters our expectations and perception of success and failure. So here's the question. How do we know if we might be living life in those shadows? Good question. Nidra, I heard you. I'm glad you asked. Here's the thing, you all. Living life in the shadows of what someone did to us can take on a couple of different forms. Example, one of the ways is you end up developing what would be called a pessimistic outlook on life. Meaning no matter what happens in life, you automatically see the worst in whatever situation, right? You automatically, even when something is going good, you automatically expect the bottom to fall out. You expect things to go wrong. Another way, if the shoe fits, I'm sorry, I just got to give it to how he gave it to me. One of the other ways there's signs of that we might be living in the shadows. For some people, they develop a victim mentality. They don't trust nobody. They think everybody out to get them. Right? Everybody, you can't trust nobody. Every person you date is gonna cheat on you. You think everybody's a cheater. And that's not true. You think every friend is gonna stab you in the back. And that's not true. Now imagine it may be the people that you choose that stab you in the back. But what I'm saying is everybody ain't gonna stab you in the back. Right? You have a victim mentality. Whenever somebody makes a mistake, you assume that it was intentional. That's a victim mentality. Here's the third thing that would be a sign that you might be living in the shadows of something that happened to you in the past. You're argumentative. I mean, literally, any conversation you have with somebody ends up in an argument, even when you're not trying to engage in an argument. Why? Because you assume that whenever somebody says something, that they're taking a shot at you. Or because you only see things one way. and you don't take the time, or you're not open to seeing things from a different perspective. And so you say things like, well, I don't like to argue, so I'm just going to remove myself. Well, I mean, that's good that maybe you don't like to argue, but also maybe it could be that you're closed minded. And that the reason that you feel like it's going to turn into an argument, because guess what? You're trying to argue your perspective because you don't understand any other perspective. You can't see any other perspective. But here's another way, and I'm gonna be honest. I was not aware that there's so many people that struggle with this indecisiveness. That's another example, or that shows that you might be living in the shadows of something that happened to you. You struggle with making basic decisions because why? Because you feel like the last time I made a decision, this is what happened, and my heart got broke. The last time I made a decision, they stole from me. Something bad happened. So now you struggle making any kind of decisions. The only way that you end up making decisions is simply because you ain't got no choice. I gotta choose right now. Indecisiveness. But here's another one. This is something that I began to see ever since I became ordained as a minister. I didn't realize that there were so many people that fall into this category. For a lot of people that live in the shadows, they end up being stagnant. You can put stagnation. Stagnation, meaning you're stuck. What does that mean? Stagnation means a lack of growth and development. Woo! We ain't talking about GD. What up, folks, y'all? Y'all need to be on here too, folks. But stagnation means a lack of growth and development. That means you're simply stuck. You're not learning anything new. You're not learning how to better yourself. You're not developing. That means when you're not developing, that means you're not growing. The last one I'm gonna throw out there is, and a lot of us can relate. Now, I'm not saying that we can relate personally, but we know somebody that fits in this category. Codependency. People who live in the shadows of something that happened to them, they often become codependent. What does that mean? They real needy. Now, it ain't nothing wrong with needing some love and needing a hug and desiring companionship and not wanting alone, but that's not what we're talking about. Codependency means you're excessively needy. And that can be in the form of emotionally, right? Or psychologically. There's some people that are so codependent. Their whole way of life is dependent upon the people that they're connected to. Your happiness is based on someone else making you happy. Right? The excitement and the joy and the contentment of life, all of that becomes dependent upon who you're connected to. And so, as much as you may, I'm a loner, I'm an introvert, right? Well, we're gonna talk about that next week. You may not necessarily be an introvert. You just isolating yourself out of fear. Why? Because anybody you do get connected to, you become excessively needy. You got to talk to them 24/7. You want to know what they're doing every second of the day. Why? Because you're codependent. Now, there's nothing wrong with a healthy desire of wanting to see somebody, wanting to talk to somebody, whether it's a friend or romantic or even family. But it's a little bit different when you're excessively needy, emotionally and psychologically. But either way, you all, regardless of which way living life in the shadows begins to manifest. Here's something I also noticed. All of those ways usually result in people feeling frustrated or discontent. That's actually why it seems like some of us are always changing careers or changing jobs. Or, hey, I gotta say it, or why some of our relationships don't seem to last that long. Mm. You mean to tell me that every place you work had a toxic culture? You mean to tell me that every one of your friends stabbed you in the back? They was jealous of you? You mean to tell me that every one of your exes turned out to be a F boy or a hot girl? Got y'all walking around here like Chris Brown talking about these hoes ain't loyal. Now, just sidebar, theoretically, now I'm just throwing this out there. Uh, by definition, are hoes really supposed to be loyal? Like, I mean, hoes, like, just make it make sense. Like, these hoes ain't loyal. I mean, if they are supposed to be loyal, who's the hoe supposed to be loyal to? Let me quit. Let me get out of here. But here's the thing, you all. two things can be two things can be true at the same time. What you mean? Here's an example. If my watch is broken and the hands on the dial stop moving, guess what? My watch will still have the correct time twice a day. So watch this. That means yes, yes, my watch is broken. But yes, it'll also give me the correct time twice a day. So guess what? Yes, that job may have had a toxic culture. Yes, your friends may have been fake. Yes, your ex-boo might be crazy. But you picked them. Did y'all hear me? You picked them. But here's something else I don't know if you might have caught. Because in all of those scenarios that I just gave, there was also a common denominator. You. Hello, somebody. Meaning, here's what I mean. Yes, the mother folks may have some issues. Yes, they might be crazy and have some work that they need to do. But that don't mean that we still can't be the problem. And since we know, you all, that God is, watch this, God is not going to hold us accountable for them. Remember, remember what I read earlier. Romans 14 and 12 said he going to hold us accountable for us. So here's the thing. Since we know that God's going to hold us accountable, our goal is not to focus on them. Our goal is not to focus on the people who did us wrong and why do people always. No, our focus is on taking responsibility for ourselves. So here's the thing. Could it be that our lack of taking full responsibility for our own lives is not only the reason that we are the way that we are, but could it be that it's also the reason that our life is where it is right now? Could it be that some of us have unintentionally been living our lives in the shadow of what somebody else did to us? Could it be that we really are the problem? But here's the thing. If that be the case, how exactly do we start taking full responsibility for our lives? Good question, Nidra. How do we begin to take full responsibility for our lives? So here's the thing. We know that there's no way we can control everything in life that happens to us or the people that we love, which means we have to start taking full accountability of our lives with what we can control, which is our actions. So it's a few tips. I had a bunch of tips and I cut them down, tried to consolidate, do all this other stuff. But there's a few tips that I want to leave with us to help us start taking full responsibility for our lives before we get up out of here to get ready to kick off our weekend. Tip number one, if somebody taking notes, the first thing that we got to do, tip number one, take responsibility. I want y'all to hear me for prioritizing you. Let me say that again. Tip number one, take responsibility for prioritizing you. So I didn't realize, you all, that so many of us struggle with making ourselves a priority, especially those of us that got kids, right? But the truth is, you all, if we're going to start taking full responsibility for our lives, we have to believe that our hopes and dreams matter too. But unfortunately, for most of us, we end up passing the buck and we put limits on ourselves. Watch this, because we don't want to seem selfish. But you know what? You matter too. We matter too. Guess what? That's why every time we get on an airplane, before the plane takes off, what does the flight attendant tell us? In case of an emergency, when that mask drops down, they tell you, put your mask on first, then help somebody else. Because here's the thing, they know that if you and the people you love plan on surviving whatever emergency that may happen, you got to first make sure that you don't run out of oxygen. How you going to help me if you can't breathe? They tell you to put your mask on first. We have to in order to take full responsibility for ourselves, you all, we have to make it a priority to take care of you first. Now, I'm not saying neglect your kids. I'm not saying neglect husband or wife or things of that nature. But what I am saying is that means we have to be intentional. Same way we're intentional about making plans to do this, that, and the third, take this person to the doctor, to their game, and this, that. Prioritize you. Prioritize taking care of not only just the things that you need, but the things you want matter too. And here, what are some of the things that we can do? Because we all need to practice self-care and self-love. We can do things like praying, spending time with God praying. Some of us, it may be helpful to spend time meditating, right? Just sitting there doing nothing and just being at peace in silence. For some of us, gardening may be your thing. Maybe gardening is a form of, maybe you get some kind of joy or excitement out of gardening. But I think we all need to take time and do this one, you all. Journaling. All of us need to take some time to sit and reflect. Watch this. Think about the things that we think about. Write it down. Make it plain. Some of us, if somebody asks you certain questions, we kind of know what we want to say, but we just don't have the words to say it. Journaling helps. Write it down. Write down the things that we notice. Write down the desires of our hearts. Journal. Some of us do it, some of us don't. Make it a priority to take a hot bath. Pamper yourself. Treat yourself nice. Treat yourself good. Repeat positive affirmations. But here's the thing. Do it on a daily. We may not be able to take a hot bath every day. You may not have the time to do that every day. You may not have time to do gardening every day. But we can journal and we can speak positive affirmations to ourselves. Speak life into yourself. Prioritize you. Tip number 2. Hopefully it ain't gonna hurt too much, but we gotta dig. Stop blaming other people. Tip number 2. Stop blaming other people. Hear me when I say I completely understand that the people that hurt us made us feel a certain kind of way. They made us feel a way that we never want to feel again. But here's the thing. Dwelling on what happened won't change what happened. And low key, when we dwell on what happened, that's actually a form of self-sabotage. What you mean? The reason that it's a low key form of self-sabotaging because anytime we are super focused on what someone else did or how someone else made us feel, we usually end up missing whatever the important lesson that God is trying to teach us. Which, guess what? When we miss those lessons, that means we're not learning. And we just talked about it. If we're not learning, usually we're probably not growing, which then means we're probably stagnant. Again, we're not excusing what they did, but we ain't talking about them. What they did is done already. We have to be intentional about learning how to move forward. They're not going to control our joy. They're not going to control our happiness. Stop blaming them. We serve a God that can do anything, everything. But we got to let that go. I ain't saying you got to let them back in your circle. You got to let them back around you. But we got to stop using them as an excuse and take ownership of how you got a nasty attitude because you got a nasty attitude. I wonder if that's why some of our relationships don't fall apart because we got a stink attitude. Because we really just angry, and we angry because we really hurt, and we don't know how to move on. I digress. That was just a thought that came out. My last tip number 3. We all need healthy accountability circles. Tip number 3. We all need healthy accountability circles. If we're going to take full responsibility that for our lives, that also includes you all having a circle of people who don't just celebrate us, who ain't gonna just praise us when things are going good, who ain't gonna just be on some BS when we on BS. We need our circle also needs to be, watch this, they need to be empowered because some of us we have circles and we have people who we call in our circle but they really don't feel like they can really tell you the truth because you're gonna spaz out. They want to tell you, but they know how you are. But so our circle has to be empowered. Watch this, to call us out and hold us accountable when we on some BS. Our circle needs to be able to hold us accountable when we're wrong. I'm being honest. And we have to trust. Guess what? And the reason I say healthy circles, right? Because we have to have people that we can trust, that what they're telling us, number one, is meant for our good, right? We need wise, and that's why we need wise and godly counsel. I ain't saying they got to be super deep, but if they tell you to do something crazy that definitely will go against God, that's not healthy. Right? Our circle has to be healthy and they have to feel empowered. Yeah, they got to be able to tell us no. No, you're wrong. But also, our circle should be able to tell us, hey, look like you getting a little stagnant. I noticed that you starting to display some of the traits like you living in the shadows, right? They should be able to call us out when it sounds like we got a victim mentality. They should be able to speak truth to us. And we not get offended. And we not be like, you ain't my real friend. Because can I tell you something? Just a little side note. The people that really care about you and love you, they'll tell you the truth. Even if it means you might get mad at them. Why? Because they want what's best for you. But those people that be hanging around you, you ask them certain questions, and they yes men and women, right? Oh yeah, you right, girl. He ain't nothing. No, maybe you wrong. Bro, maybe you wrong. You out of pocket. Right? They need to be able to call us out. And so guess what? The people that love us will tell us the truth. Those people who not willing to tell you the truth, or they don't really say anything because they know how you are and they just accept it, and they don't want no smoke, and they don't want to make you mad, and so they just kind of leave things be. They don't love you. Because if they did, they would be honest. And unfortunately, some of us have people around us that don't really love us. Why? And I'm saying that they don't love us because they're not being honest with us when we out of pocket. They get real quiet. They don't say nothing. Real friends hold each other accountable. Yes, I'm gonna encourage you. Yes, I'm gonna motivate you. Yes, I'm gonna inspire you. Yes, I'm gonna praise you. But I'm gonna check you too. If I really care about you, I'm gonna tell you, bro, you did your wife wrong. I'm gonna tell you, bro, the female you dating, you wrong. I'm not gonna condone your BS. Why? Because I want what's best for you. That's what healthy accountability circles look like. But let me get off my little soapbox so we can get up out of here. Here's the thing, you all. When we become responsible for our lives, eventually what we'll notice is that more things begin to work in our favor. So here's the thing. Also, at the end of the day, the more we take full responsibility for our lives, no matter, and I got to keep throwing this out there, no matter what happens to us, you'll even notice our quality of life will change for the better, that is. You might even notice that some of your relationships might change for the better. And that's whether it's familial, whether it's friend or romantic. So as we get ready to go into this weekend, I want to encourage each and every one of us. First, take some extra time. Prioritize you. Because your hopes and dreams, they matter too. Get to know yourself a little bit better. Some of us low key, if real talk, some of us really may not even like ourselves. But you don't even know if you really like how you really feel about yourself. Because you busy. You so busy just being busy. That's why we gotta prioritize taking care of ourselves. Because guess what? You need to figure out what does happiness and success look like for you. Some of us even need to figure out, reevaluate, and or evaluate. What are your own standards for for a real friend? What are your standards for a romantic partner? Because the more and this is significant because the more we begin to take full responsibility for our lives, the more we can start living out our dreams unfiltered. Not to mention, as we get up out of here, I don't know about y'all, but I would hate to just go through life. Y'all heard me say it last season. I would hate to go through life, just being frustrated all the time, being discontent, just unfulfilled, and relationships don't last, and I'm just mad at the world, and then I get to heaven and I can't get in because then I find out I was really the problem. And I never took the time to fix it. And when I say fix it, fix me. Well, look, that's all I got for y'all on tonight. As always, I thank y'all for tuning in. And I can look forward to seeing y'all next Friday Night Live as we'll be discussing healed versus isolated. This is another something, you all, that I noticed that many of us sometimes we may not notice the difference because there's some people, you all, we think that we're healed, but then the question becomes, are you really healed or have you just been isolating yourself? I don't know. We're going to talk about it next week. But remember, as always, dreams plant the seeds for the future, and your future is definitely bright. Until next week, peace and love. Talk to y'all later.